So when I got on the scene, the poetry scene, around 2005, times were very exciting. There was some revolution going on, so we're more like comrades doing our poetry for a cause. We wanted our voices to be heard. We're being rebellious about the system. There were a lot of things that we were not unhappy with. So I started off more as a protest poet, being macho and down with this, up with this, that type of a thing. And then we had poets like Comrade Fatso, we had Biko, we had a number of poets I really remember even from Blauwile. There was something exciting every month to look forward to. Poets were bringing in fresh work, new poems, dope stuff. Then I left the country early 2008 and I got exposed to the South African arts industry where poetry was vast, from love poems to protest poems to just different things, to encountering women who were writing about being a black curvaceous woman, to things to do with motherhood, to things with where you address issues you're going through as a stepdaughter, as a stepson, as a half sister. So South Africa exposed me to a whole lot of possibilities of what could be done with poetry as theater, where poetry with music, poetry with dance, poetry with different art forms, and the power of collaborations. It was really in South Africa where I got to be exposed to all these possibilities that one could do with poetry. So for instance, I performed with 7 powerful poets in South Africa, and we collaborated on a show that we called Body of Words, and it ran for 3 nights. And in 2010, people had to pay 100 rand to come to the show. It was 7 of us, and our work was interweaved, so we each had a space to fill in. And I'm talking of women: Napo Mashiane, Lebo Mashile, Philippa had Villiers, Meisha Jenkins, Kanyima Kubani, Natalia Molebatsi, including myself. So these were very also interesting times for me. And going to university to study, where I also make different art forms, where you start looking at site-specific performances, where if I want to perform at this bus station, what am I performing? Who's my target audience? Where I learned breaking the form of conventional places of performance. So hence you see now I can perform at a art gallery, combining my work with visual art, where I can make any space be a performance space, where you have to come into a gallery space and poetry happens, and also where I move with the audience. So you might come to my show and there won't be seats because I want to be moving with you from one scene to another of my work. Then moving back home, the scene has totally changed from what it used to be like 8 years ago when I got onto the scene. Right now, I think the poetry scene is kind of boring in some sense, because the poets I know, some of them are still performing the same poems, and the same style of performance has remained the same. Of course, some the poets on the scene, like Cynic, who's really dope, but he's also into hip hop, so he fuses his poetry with a beat. But there hasn't been much experiments of the work. How many are fusing poetry with dance? How many are fusing poetry with soundscapes? How many are fusing poetry with a huge band playing live? They are people like poets like Upmost and Outspoken, who I know for years they've been playing with bands, but how many more have come out of that? Some poets, I know if I'm to listen to them, they'll be reciting the same poem over and over again, and nothing has really changed. One of my inspirations is Michael Jackson. If he was to perform the same song, he would perform it differently. So the set would have changed, the lighting would have changed, maybe the way he enters on the stage with the same song would have changed. And how many local poets are really doing that. So, stuff becomes stale. So, and then you realize also many arts venues have been closing down in Zimbabwe, and people who are organizing events, the way they organize events, it's also still the same like 7 years ago. So sometimes for me, there's nothing really new to look forward to going to a poetry event, because the same way it was being organized in 2007 is still the same way. So what happens now is, if you have a new poet come on the scene, they'll go to the same event maybe for a year. When they realize that there's nothing changing about this poetry event, they might stop coming, or they might get discouraged. And also we are also at a point where not much is being done. So we don't have, let's say, 10 solid poetry events that happens in a month, where every month, or the first Saturday of the month, the second evening of the month, or something where you can hop on and hop off from this poetry event to another, to another, to another, to another. There isn't much happening. So when I got back last year, I really had to find my ground and say, hey, if you cannot wait for someone to organize poetry events, what if nobody organizes? Then it means there's nothing that's going to happen. So my tour is starting on the 11th of May up to the 9th of August. So if you're in Europe, I got a Schengen visa which allows me to be in 26 countries. So all you need to do is you book me up for a gig, a performance lecture at your university, or a workshop with some of your students. I'm very open to doing that. I'm very also open for collaborations. So if you've been looking for an African poet to collaborate with, I'm your girl to go to. But also if you're home, you have to be watching, you have to be following me. I need you to keep updated at what am I doing, what's new, what's cooking. So these are some of the things that you should look forward to from this tour, but also look out for my other collaborations that I'll be working with. I'll be working with a dancer, and I'm gonna do my EPK whilst I'm in Europe, and there'll be lots of videos that I'll be sharing and lots of poetry to be made during this tour.